the chat section periodically throughout the webinar here. My name is Steve Wheeler. I'm your speaker today with Stillwell Services, and we have the VMR tracker, and we'll be talking about the VMR tracker today. We've folks on from Virginia to Florida, like Texas to California, Denver to DC, so we have quite a full audience today. So first thing is, let me go. Today what we're going to discuss, if there's takeaways for today, we're going to be talking to you about the VMR tracker application, but we're also going to be talking to you and educating somewhat about the cloud and how we take advantage of cloud applications and exactly what is the cloud application and what is the VMR tracker developed on. And the next thing we're going to be talking about is value. And not only value of what you can provide, what we can provide from an application, but value how you can help have conversations with employers, property managers, schools, which they have a majority of the commuters. So to be able to give them information on alternative commuting options and being able to show them numbers. And we're going to talk about value and how you can use the application to show those employers those numbers. Solution, we're certainly going to go through a demonstration of the VMR tracker solution, and then finally we're going to talk measurements. Not only measurements within the application, dashboards and analytics, but also some measurements, some guidelines that you may be thinking about in your area. So with that, and please, again, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. We're going to talk one thing here about the cloud. And what is the cloud? I've defined the cloud in one way is the removal of anything IT related, meaning you don't have to worry about databases, servers, networks, everything combined. You're able to run applications somewhere else, access anywhere with secure data. And with that is how you take advantage of applications that are surrounding the cloud, such as social. Social gives us new ways to connect here. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but there's 150,000 conversations going on every day just talking about companies. I imagine in your own world you can think about that with the commuter track applications you may have in your TMAs or TVM areas. But also, of course, we know Facebook and LinkedIn and all those other areas. But how do we capture some of that information and help us with employers and alternative commuting options? Next thing is mobile, and basically mobile, new ways to reach out to customers. And just to understand the application that we provide, it's 100% mobile enabled. You can access it through a cell phone all the way to an iPad, to a PC, however you want to access the application. But it also goes the other way too. If we want to start taking a look at how we can do some mobile marketing using the application as well, is a good idea. Big data certainly is another area. To think about big data, not only the data we're capturing about employers, as we're going to see in the VMR tracker application, but you can also think about the other side is this can be used as a data warehouse to provide whatever commuter information you may have into the application, where we can slice and dice more information about our employers, property managers, and schools. Certainly community is creating that community, and not only with our employers and our executive transportation coordinators, but also the community that you have within your office. How do you use the folks that are around your program to be able to share information on what's working, what's not working, and creating new ways to collaborate? And then finally, we're going to talk about our application today. It's in the cloud. Is the VMR tracker, being able to take advantage of applications where you don't have to worry about the multiple spreadsheets, the multiple disparate systems, to having one place to go to look for your information. Okay, so today's systems are holding you back, or even non-existent. So I think of an example of an implementation we did recently, and we took a look at one of the spreadsheets. This spreadsheet was shared with 6 folks. It had 260 tabs, I believe, was the number in the spreadsheet. Those 6 folks shared it with 3 more, which then eventually shared it with 2 more from the reporting standpoint. And we all know in a spreadsheet, formulas can get changed real quickly. So with that is being able to have all of your information in one place, having connected systems rather than disconnected systems, and instead of having manual processes, having automated process. So the challenge in these systems is, since they're a disconnected nature, it's really holding you back that you're spending time on filling in spreadsheets rather than spending time in employers and educating them on the commuter programs that you provide. So essentially the message is, how do we become a better connected organization? How do you harness the information that you're gathering on employers? How do you harness the information on the contacts, the meetings that you're having with them? Certainly the marketing campaigns, the marketing lists, the lead lists that you have, collecting information on van pools, your programs, your mode counts. How can you help connect your employers within your organization with your employees, with your partners, with the commuters? So 5 questions to help you with employers. That first question is, how do you market to employers? But I'd also say, are you targeting the right companies? Are you targeting the right companies with the programs you have in your tool bag to offer? Are you using some sort of an automated tool to track the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns? It's not only email marketing, that's sending out mail marketing, doing any advertising, doing any campaigns, being able to track all the information. We're going to walk through and talk about that today in the VMR tracker. How can you help employers and commuters? How do you show them the value of alternative forms of commuting? We're going to be talking about that here real shortly. How do you sell alternative commute options to the team? You know, we said earlier, how are you sharing information across team members and collaborating on what are the ideas that are working to help, I call dangle the carrot in front of the employer, to help them get their employees incented to try alternative forms of transportation. And then as the first slide was thinking outside the box. How do you transform the way employers think about commuting? How do you get them to think outside of the box? So what's the value? You know, here's an example, and it's somewhat of it's an equation that you're trying to find with employers, property managers, schools, other areas incenting commuters to take alternative forms of commuting, and everyone has a different pain point. You know, maybe here in the top left is tax savings. They want to be able to do pre-tax dollars to pay for their commuting. Maybe it's the cost of having the employee in that office, and you can walk through and talk about the savings from parking space, the office space, the amount of savings that can be by offering out telework programs that you can help train companies to offer more telework compressed work week programs. Certainly showing the commuters or employees the transit potential savings. Maybe it's just the cost of commute. Maybe it's time in the car. Maybe it's CO2 emissions. Maybe it's being more green aware. But really finding what's the value you can sell to these employers of different forms of alternative forms of commuting, and then being able to show them numbers on where they have actual savings by choosing one of these other methods. And then finally, the value of also talking about measuring against yourself. You know, how are you doing as an organization? How are you doing as an outreach? So we're going to talk about some dashboards that are part of the VMR tracker that can help you look at how are you being successful and measuring yourself. So with that, we're looking at how do we manage or how do we view information on van pools, car pools, walking, running, bikes, transit, telework. How do we get this information into one place have one source of information for program overviews and mode counts, and that's somewhat of a foreign concept to you. We'll go through and explain that when we go to the application. Meetings, calendars, and marketing in one location. So essentially the VMR tracker, the center point of the VMR tracker are accounts. So accounts in the VMR tracker are employers, property managers, schools. There's other type accounts we'll show. Around those are meetings and activities that we track. We have programs and mode counts. We have standards that are put in place for travel distance and frequency. We track transit passes by month, by account. We track van pools and van pool details, certainly lead management and campaign management, and at the top of it is we're starting to collect big data across all our employees, our employers around the region. So now we're able to create reports, goals and targets, and dashboards to really show how effective we are at working with the employers in the region. So with that, introducing VMR Tracker. So the VMR Tracker is transportation management in the cloud. It's a native application, no spreadsheet maintenance, no IT needed, no client tools needed. So the VMR Tracker, we're going to go through a day in the life. A day in the life, we're going to walk through from account management all the way to dashboards and analytics. And we can see some of the dashboards that we have in the application. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and launch into the application. Oh, before I start, a slight disclaimer here. So one thing to note, this is a demo environment. This is not a live environment. So you may see data that may be a little different than what you have. So your deployment is very configured. So literally every field can be relabeled or new fields can be put in. This application is designed to be a very base application that if we come up with an idea for one area, it also can be reused for another area. So this application can be updated very easily. There is no live data in here, so it's not real data and does not represent any authority organization. I just want to say this ahead of time. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and log into the application. So we are looking at right now, hold on, we are looking at right now the home screen for the VMR Tracker. And if we see here, we see a dashboard that we can customize whatever dashboard we want to take a look at. This happens to be just the top section of the VMR dashboard. We can see our calendar. So another note, we can have our own calendar. We can have central calendar. We can have resource constraints. You can have this integrated with Outlook both ways. So Outlook comes into Salesforce. Salesforce goes out to Outlook within the VMR Tracker here. So we're going to start out in the accounts area. And before I do that, let's check to make sure we have any questions out here. So the one question I had was, we'll get to that. There's a question that was out there about leads, and I'm going to get into it in a little bit. So let's start out with accounts. The first thing to notice is the account types. And this is so it acts to collect different information. Let's look at the employer as an example first for the active network. So at the highest level, or as in account information, is we're collecting information about that account location. Could be also geolocation, so we could do some mapping later on about the account site, the territory. But we're also then collecting more information that's more pertinent to TMA, TDM, PM, MPO areas. And that is the green team. Do we have a partnership plan? Are they part of a challenge? So there's other things that we can add at the customer, at the account level. On this side of the screen, the one thing to note is the partnership levels. So we talked about measurement and we talked about incentives. So one of the carrots that we offer out here is the partnership levels. Some of the TMAs, what they do is they offer awards and ceremonies for those partners, those prospects that have achieved partner status, those partners that have achieved platinum status, and then those that have gone from platinum to even a diamond status, and then they even have awards for the best of the best of. So we have the ability that this partnership level, based off of the account settings, will increase or update as we check in the boxes for a particular account. Some other things to note is also the property information. So we can track the associated property manager, property owner, what building are they in, and then we can even collect information on the building, such as is it energy certified, is it LEED certified. Again, configurable. If you don't collect this information, these fields get taken right off the screen when deployed and added in any fields that you need to collect information about your account. So we'll go back into the accounts and we'll look at a property manager. So property managers would collect different information. So what's important to the property manager is also how many employers are in the building that they manage, what's the square feet that they manage, how many employees are in the building managed. So there's different information that we collect about the property manager because they're not really managing any of the employees in the building, but they have a lot of influence over everybody coming in the front door. So we want their help in assisting us with some of the commute alternatives that we have. The other ones that we also talked about in accounts, we have other type accounts. So if you have vendors or sponsors, you could track those contacts and account information. We also track buildings, the property owners inside of here. Building is going to have even less information. We're only going to collect the building information that's pertinent to them, just the building. The next thing we're going to go to is talk about accounts. Contacts in the accounts. So within this, we're going to look at Bob Smith here. So we can collect information about your ETCs, your transportation coordinators. So what type of contact? So it may be your transportation coordinator as well as executive champion. It could be the person that sells your passes. We also collect school with maybe the principal or school information, different contacts that you have there. Also marketing information for what marketing campaigns you may want to include them on. We can have additional lists that we track at the contact level. One more note in here is also collecting information about emails that are sent over. So Bob here sent over an invitation to the TDN management in the cloud, or the VMR tracker webinar here. And Bob opened up the invitation this morning at 6:30. So we can tell and track the status of when he opened it, any times he's opened it, if he's taken any action. I could even generate leads based off of his activity on email. So I can also track any activities. Did I have a meeting with them? I can track an email sent to them. So I can track all activity with Bob. So let's go to, from here we're going to talk about marketing. So we're going to look at the marketing and a campaign. So we can take a look at campaigns. And we put an example of a campaign in here, commuter choice campaign. And with a commuter choice campaign, we can track the start, the end, how many times we've sent out invitations or mailers, what is the cost, what's our expected response, what's our expected folks that might attend. It could be a trade show, could be any sort of event that we want to track as a campaign, such as a marketing expense. We can also track the campaign members. What's the status of this particular member? Are they coming to maybe it's a meeting that we're driving them to. Maybe it's a webinar. So there's different things we can track with campaign history and marketing history. I think one of the questions was on leads. Yeah, one of the questions we had was on leads. So leads and contacts are different. Contacts typically are the scrubbed list. They're the clean list on accounts that we keep active all the time. You know, that's something that you keep updated. You want to have as clean of a list as possible on contacts. Leads are those that we're working lists that we might be sending massive mailers with their email addresses, are constantly changing. They're constantly moving around. So a good idea or a good example of that would be the commuter choice campaign. So we may put 10,000 leads in a lead list and send that out to the commuter choice campaign to drive them for attendance for a fair day, a transportation fair day. We also may, as part of that campaign, another couple hundred that we have from our contact list that we pull from contacts and accounts. So leads are meant to be somewhat thought of as multiple lists that are specific to some sort of a campaign, a specific type of lead category, but not meant to get associated to an account until we qualify a lead can be into a contact. We can have that discussion later on if needed. Okay, let me go and check to see if we have any questions right now, and it looks like nothing yet. Okay, good to go. All right, next up, we're going to go back into our VMR tracker. And we're going to go to program overviews. So we are in accounts, and let me explain the concept of a program overview. Most of you probably know what this is, but a program overview is essentially the basic information on an account. And the basic information of, we look at an account to be a partner is they have to have an appointment of on-site ETC, they have to be doing an ongoing education, and they have to be recruiting for commute alternatives. They get to those three, that's going to give them another status within how we look at them as an account. The next thing is we track what type of programs do they offer their employees. So this can be same thought of for property managers as well. Does this employer offer a bike program? Is there rack storage? And I'm not going to go through and read every one of these fields in here, but we track it against certainly bike walk, carpool, transit, van pool, telework, the compressed work week, AWH, alternative work hours. Track additional support commute options, such as do they have bank, daycare, or gym on site so that somebody doesn't have to leave the building. What other type of outreach tools maybe has this account utilized in the past? So this is the high level, what programs are they utilizing on site? So the next thing that we're going to take a look at is the mode count. So mode count, take a look and say, okay, you have a bike walk program. Now, what are the metrics, or a carpool program, what are the metrics that you have, or what are the numbers? So we can start rolling it up. So in the active network, we know that there's 999 employees. They gave us this information on that site. So we also know that they work 235 days a year. So that rolls up that they have 234,000 annual commutes with a total of 469,000 annual commute trips. If every single person was commuting there both times a day and not utilizing any of the services. So that's your benchmark number. So then we start looking down and start filling in the blanks. So we're asking and communicating with our employers. So what are the ways we can get this information like carpool counts? We can get that through surveys of the employer and be able to load that up, maybe once a year, once every couple of years we're getting a survey of each employer. They're giving us feedback on what their counts are for carpoolers. We could actually get an actual van pool count by month. We could have this as an integration in here to load this up every month or manually load this. Same with transit. We could get from our transit information and even telework. Excuse me. Where was the other one? Van pools. Did I say van pools? I think I might have said van pools. But some of this can be automatically loaded, maybe on a commuter tracking application. But then there's some we don't necessarily track in the commuter, and we want to track it at the employer level. And that's what the VMR tracker is. It's tracking the information at the employer, property manager, and school level. Now, in the property manager, we can go to these details. The property manager, we're more concerned on what do they make available in the building for their employers. Okay, I hope that helps to explain how we track mode counts in the application. And what we're really rolling up to is this total annual vehicle miles reduced. So based off of the calculations in here, we have 7.5% of their commutes are clean. And it's based on they have 104 employees that are taking advantage of other forms, alternative commutes, like the carpooler count, which says in the carpooler count, 14 says 1.1% are by carpool. So it's rolling up into the numbers, and that's the number we're looking to affect. How do we have these employers? How do we keep increasing this number on an annual basis? Okay, next up, transit passes. So again, this is an example. It happens to be the Atlanta area example, but this can be plugged in for your area. We have to customize it, or excuse me, plug in the fields that would be appropriate for your area, the type of passes. So in here, it's just giving a monthly summary of the passes, and they resell passes in this area. That may not be the case for you. You could probably get this downloaded from maybe the transit data in your area, but we can collect that information. We can also collect that information by account. So we saw it. We went into CBRE here. We could see in the CBRE that it would be showing 2 transit passes were sold to them in the month of January 2013. So we can track it down to account if we would like to go to that detail. Van pools, very similar. Van pools, we collect a little different additional information, and that additional information is the van pool name and the vendor van ID, so that you can have 2 naming. You have a name for that in your particular system, and then the vendor may have a name. We can also get the origin, destination. We can get the number of in each of the vehicles. We can get the number by account, the number of riders by account, and which van are they coming in. So we can get the total by month and roll up the van pool counts. So the next thing we're talking about is we've gone through accounts, contacts, meetings. We've showed how we collect information about the accounts in program overviews. In mode counts, we collect the information on the numbers and how we're affecting those numbers. Now we start talking about the analytics and the reporting. So the goals and targets start off that analytics. So we can put in goals and targets by person, by territory, by account, by literally any field. We can go in and adding in targets so that we're having something to shoot for during the year. So this one happens to be number of meetings. I think that a better target would be the percentage. Are we having an effect on the vehicle miles reduced or the vehicle miles traveled? Are we decreasing the vehicle miles traveled and increasing the vehicle miles reduced? So that goes into the set of reports. So in the application, we have a number of standard reports that comes along with the VMR tracker. So a lot of times we like to offer that incentive of annual awards. So we track all the annual reports, and what you what you have as the numbers that you're looking for. In the case for, in the application, the way we have it configured, a platinum partner gets to, when they get to be 20% clean commutes, they become a platinum partner. That's one example of how you think about how you would start creating that carrot for the employers, because they want to be recognized. We certainly have a complete list of monthly reports, any change in the partner status, any additional telework, compressed work week, alternative work hour programs, any expansion, reports on meetings, so whether how many employer-focused meetings do we have by month, how many commuter-focused meetings by month, the number of transit passes if we want to collect that information, and van pull information. We also have exception reports. We have marketing reports. We have school reports. Dashboard reports we're going to be talking about here in just a minute. We also have monthly auto-generated. It gets sent out to whoever you want to put on the list, and every month, on the 9th of the month, the report gets sent out so that they can see what's the status of how we're doing. So next, we're going to talk about dashboards. So dashboards, we shift with some standard dashboards. We are looking at the VMR dashboard. The VMR dashboard is vehicle miles reduced in a territory. So in this particular example, in our demo data environment, we have 12.1 million vehicle miles reduced in the territory. 4.5 million of that's due to transit. So we're able to start rolling up that data. And so as you see, as you're collecting this information, you can reverse that and even take a look at an account level and really show your account and say, hey, here's where you're at right now. You're at X amount, or you're at 20,000 miles reduced. How can we get that to more? So you only have 12 carpoolers. How can we get that to 20 carpoolers? How can we help you incent your employees? Is there any financial things that you kick in, Mr. Employer? And trying to incent them to try to give them another additional carrot out there, so to help them with the alternative forms of commuting. And you can also, take a look at it graphically. You could also take a look, what are my top VMR accounts? Who's having the most effect? Which ones having the most effect on transit? Which ones have the most effect on van pull? Which ones have the most effect on carpool? So we can slice and dice this information on a monthly basis, an annual basis. However, this report happens to be for annual. But we could take a look at that information on a monthly basis as well, actually up to real time if needed. Okay, so that gets us through the dashboards. We're going to come back. That's everything in the VMR tracker. Let me see if we have any questions. And it is a quiet crowd right now. I will, by the way, at the end of the call here, I will be putting, unmuting the line. So if you want to ask any questions, we're about ready to wrap it up here. I think just about at my 30-minute limit. So let me go to wrapping it up here. So the things I'd like you to remember today, why should I be interested? What is it that you saw here today? So one thing you can see is how we can capture information in one place, how we can have the information on all our employers. We can then even add more information. So this application is 100% integratable, meaning we can take information from any system and find a connection. The next thing to talk about is one source of the truth. So one place to go for finding your information. You could have one place to go for your campaigns, tracking your leads, doing your mass emails, doing mass email tracking. The key thing in here is no more spreadsheets or no more multiple systems. How can we take the multiple systems and get our information into one place? Another thing is we look at it as an application to help you sell. And that is to help you sell employers and their commuters to be able to sell them the alternative forms of transportation. Being able to give them statistics and facts about ways that they can savings, costs, CO2 emissions, really give them ideas on how they can affect the commutes for their city. Certainly a data warehouse for your commute programs to be able to start collecting that information. I know spreadsheets, Outlook doesn't give you much of the history. If somebody moves on from the area and a new person comes in, they're not going to have any history of what's going on. This gives us the capability to have history for lifetime, if needed, to be able to go look at what account activity did we have in here yesterday, last week, last month, 2 years ago. Certainly being able to have dashboards, reports, and analytics, and being able to have those reports at the click of a button when somebody asks, rather than having to gather that spreadsheet and pass it around so many times where it's not going to be accurate information anymore. And the other one is no need for IT support, 100% cloud application. So just to give you a little feedback what our customers are saying, probably I would say the #1 feedback that we get is flexibility. And that is because we'll come up with some ideas, and everybody does things a little bit differently in their area. And that's a real key component. And so this is not necessarily hard-coded. We can come up, it is an application, so when we install in Atlanta and go out to install in San Diego, that's the same application. What's different about it is turning fields on, turning fields off, maybe adding a couple that we deploy in the application. So it's really about configuring the application to be suitable to your needs and be able to add those couple of things that you need to run your business or be able to be a more effective PMA in your area. The next thing to know, I know one of the things we get asked is how much. Just to give you some guidelines, is, there is a licensing component to it. We're going to provide our contact information if there is any interest. We certainly would like for you to reach out to us. I'm sure we're going to drop you a note as well. But pricing basically roughly $250 a month, but we can talk about that more because there's more things that you have to talk about from the implementation standpoint and who's going to be using it. And then certainly there's nonprofit incentives. So we'd have to talk to you about that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn everybody off mute, not all at one time, so questions and answers. So if we hold on, here's my contact information, as well as Ali, who's on the line with us as well. I think he's on mute. So hold on here just a second. And if there are any additional questions. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and feel free. I've got you all on off mute. All right. If there's no additional questions, certainly there's my contact information. Let me know if there is anything. Oh, I'm trying to get an echo here. Let me know if there's any questions that I could answer. I put you back on mute. I heard a couple of echoes. But with that, that concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much for attending. We look forward to talking to you about your commute programs. Thank you very much.